All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to allow other students to come in throughout the presentation, and I am recording this presentation in case anyone's unable to attend today, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself quickly. My name is Bren and I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'll be today presenting on UCEAP scholarships to support study abroad, in particular in relation to our fall programs. And someone has asked, will the recording be made available if we leave early? It will. I'm going to go ahead and share this recording with anyone who is registered for the event today. So if you need to leave early, the recording will be there. Okie dokie. So as I mentioned, my name is Bren Lemon. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm the Scholarship and Alumni Engagement Coordinator in our office in Goleta, California. I've been working in this role for about 2.5 years now. Prior to this, I also worked in our office in Edinburgh, in Scotland, where I studied abroad in my undergraduate degree. I studied abroad there for a year while I was a student at UC Santa Barbara. And after graduating from UC Santa Barbara and moving back to work in that office for a year, I moved down to Chile. I moved down to Puerto Varas in the lake region of Chile, and I learned Spanish and I taught English for a year. So I'm really excited to hear that Alicia is going to Spanish. And going to Chile, not to Spanish. And I just want to say welcome to everyone today. So below my name, you'll see my contact information here, blemon@uceap.universityofcalifornia.edu. That's going to be the most direct way to contact me with any questions about getting onto the scholarship website, any follow-up from this presentation. So go ahead and take a picture of this slide now so that you have it down the line if you're looking to contact me, or feel free to write that information down. And I'll put it up at the end of the PowerPoint as well in case you miss it. But let's go ahead and get started and talk about our UCEAP system-wide portfolio. So we as the system-wide office have independent scholarships separate from those that you'll see at your UC campus. So many of you are from across the UC system. We have students from UCSB, UCSD, Berkeley. I saw a lot of students in the chat. So we as a system-wide office hold a separate portfolio from those campuses. Our portfolio includes the UCEAP Global Scholarship. This is our overarching award that once you've applied for this award, your application is in the system. And from this point forward, you can qualify for other awards in our system. So these include our named awards, which we'll go over in a little bit. These are individual donor-based scholarships that you don't apply directly to. You will only be selected if you are within the top 10% of candidates for the UCEAP Global Scholarship. And I'll go into a little more detail about that in a bit, because I know that can be a little confusing initially. Beyond this, we have our Dutton-Haver Scholarship and Paul Dutton-Haver Extension Scholarships, as well as our Chris Borton Memorial Scholarships. These awards are specific to year-long study, and we will not be going over them in tremendous depth today because I don't know how many of us in this call are interested in year-long programs. I do have a separate recording of a year-long scholarship webinar that you're welcome to check out on our YouTube channel. I can include that link in the follow-up to registration here today in case you decide you're interested in studying abroad for a year. I will go over the Paul Dutton-Haver Extension Scholarships in a little bit because these are awards that students can apply for if they are considering extending their program from fall to spring, making it a year-long program of study. So we'll talk about those in a little bit, but just for now, if anyone in the chat is at all interested in going abroad for a year, is considering it in any way, please go ahead and put that there so that I'm aware that I can spend a little more time on that subject for you. Once you return from your program abroad, we do offer a few different awards as well. These include the internship awards, the undergraduate research awards, and our graduate school scholarships. So we'll go over those very briefly at the end of the presentation, and I'll give you some resources to follow up on that down the line if those are things you're interested in. So let's begin by discussing eligibility. All UCEAP students are eligible for our awards. So we don't have any citizenship, residency, or other eligibility requirements. If you apply for and are ultimately selected for a UCEAP program, you are eligible for our scholarships. So if you are enrolled as a full-time student at a UC and you plan to go abroad on UCEAP, you are eligible to apply. Something I also like to note on this slide is that all of the photographs from this presentation are submitted by students on UCEAP programs or myself. Some of them are photos from my time abroad as well. So if you notice any locations that you recognize, go ahead and place it in the chat. It's always fun to see that. Let's go over our timeline really quickly. So for a UCEAP Global Scholarship, as I mentioned, our general award that you must apply to get your application in the system, we offer $1,000 for summer programs and $2,000 for quarter, semester, or year-long study. When I say year-long study, that is per semester. So if you're going abroad for a year, you want to apply both in fall and in spring. And together you'll receive $4,000 of funding if you are selected for both cycles. The judgment or the review process for those is handled separately. So gaining a scholarship in one semester does not guarantee a scholarship in the second. You must submit your applications by 11:59 p.m. on the due date below. So for our fall applications, hopefully you've already started your scholarship application. These are going to be due on March 15th. So you have just over 2 weeks to submit this application. We don't accept late applications under any circumstances, unless the entire internet of the world went down. We know that you've had a lot of time to process your application and to get it in early. So I highly recommend submitting at least a day in advance in case you have any technical issues, particularly if the deadline falls around a weekend in the future. This month falls on a Tuesday, so I should be able to help you on Monday the 14th if you're having any technical issues. But please do try to submit your application as early as you can. The cool thing about our system is that once you've submitted it, you can continue to edit it up until the very last minute. So even if you're not fully finished with your statement of purpose, go ahead and put it on the website, and then you can edit it as you go along. So our UCEAP Global Scholarship includes a few different components. The application requires a form, which is a general overview of your personal demographic information. So for example, your name, your contact information, some biographical details, and also some of your academic history, just to give us a background for who you are as a student. And beyond that, we also require a statement of purpose. This is a 500-word statement responding to a prompt that we'll go over in a little bit. It is brief. It's an exercise in brevity and in making sure that you get all of the points addressed in this short statement. I highly recommend doing a lot of peer review or taking it into a writing center to get that statement as strong as possible. And we'll go over some application tips in a little bit. If you have yet to start your application through the system, here is a link below to where you can apply, uc-eap-ucop.academicworks.com. You'll want to create an account and indicate your interest in UCEAP scholarships. So this is separate from your general scholarship to be a UCEAP student. That is hosted through our main website, and we run our scholarship program through a separate website. So you will need to create a new account. If you're having any trouble getting signed in on your UC address, try with a personal email address. Sometimes that alleviates some of the difficulty behind getting signed up. Let's discuss award selection really quickly. So the awards will be selected primarily based on academic merit and integration of a selected UCEAP program into a student's academic and career goals as demonstrated in a personal statement. This essentially means we really want to see that you are thriving academically, that you are trying really hard, and that you have found a program that suits your academic and personal and career goals. So we want to know that you've done research about the program that you're going on. We want to know that you are excited about it, that there are things that you plan to gain abroad that you would not have access to at your home campus. We also prioritize students with financial need and those who are traditionally underrepresented in UCEAP programs. We would love for you to include the impact that these elements have had on your decision to study abroad. So students who are traditionally underrepresented may be those who've transferred to a UC from a community college or state university, veterans, first-generation college students, participants of year-long programs, or students on programs where the majority of classes are taught in a language other than English. These are all students that might have had a difficult journey coming into the process of studying abroad, and we would love to hear a little bit more about what that experience has been like for you and how that has affected your decision to study abroad. We had a question from Hudson about whether this recording will be available for those who need to leave early. It will be, yes. It'll be sent out via email to everyone who is registered. This is a little look at what that form will entail when you are applying for your global scholarship. You'll put in your student ID and all those personal detailed questions there, as I mentioned. I also want to specify here that our review process is conducted anonymously. So we will remove all of the personally identifying questions before reviewers have the chance to read your application. Here you'll see we've gotten to a screen in which I, as a student, have been recommended an opportunity. This is our UCEAP Global Scholarship, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this screen over here on the orange apply button, and that will take me to the form to directly apply for this scholarship, where you will see some additional questions, repetitive questions to get you back into the system. And beyond that, you'll see your statement of purpose. So I'm going to read out the statement of purpose quickly for anyone who hasn't seen it before. As I mentioned, it's 500 words. The first question of which is, what sparked your interest in studying abroad? This is a really fun question for us. It gives us a little bit of insight into what made you excited about studying abroad for the first time. In my case, as a student, I was working at a clothing store in my sophomore year of college, and I met this older Scottish gentleman who came into the store one day, really excited. And I ended up talking to him for about 40 minutes about Scotland and about the United Kingdom. And by the end of those 40 minutes, he was adamant that I needed to go live in Scotland and how much I would love it. And it was a really transformative conversation that I would have expected to have. And at the end of it, I decided I'm going to take that leap of faith and I'm going to go for a year. And I'm so lucky that I did. And I'll never speak to that man again. He was a stranger passing through the winds, but it was an exciting way to get interested in this program. And maybe not all of you have had an experience like that, but maybe you have a friend who studied abroad. Maybe you have a family member. Maybe there's a portion, of your family heritage that you haven't been able to access in the United States, and you're excited to go abroad and get in touch with that part of your history. All of those things are fascinating for us to know. Next question is, how will your program abroad relate to your academic, career, and/or personal goals? What academic preparation have you done for your program? We want to know that you've done research about your program. How do you communicate across group differences and/or conflicts? When you study abroad, there's a lot of unique cultural immersion and growth that occurs. And how do you plan to navigate those circumstances and show up as a student, as an individual in this new country? If you are a student with financial need, please discuss how this has impacted your decision to study abroad. What do you hope to experience while abroad, and how do you hope to grow personally while abroad? And finally, as I mentioned before, if you are a student who identifies with a cohort that is traditionally underrepresented on study abroad programs, please discuss how this has impacted your decision to study abroad. So all of these are prompts that you can address within your personal statement. I recommend trying to address all of them in some way if they pertain to you as a student. So Alicia asks, do we have to answer all these questions, or are they more leading questions? You don't have to answer all of these questions. I would recommend trying to address most of them if you can within your personal statement, but you're welcome to focus on the components that feel the most, the closest to your heart, the most relevant for you as a student. Because not all of us necessarily have financial need, not all of us come from an underrepresented cohort, not all of us have experiences abroad so far. So some of those things might be difficult for you to answer, but I recommend doing your best to get to most aspects of the prompt. Someone asked, Kiara asked, is it preferred to have these questions answered in a consolidated 500-word paragraph, or 500 words total, but split up into separate paragraphs under each question? Good question, Kiara. So we recommend that this is a cohesive essay, just as you would with an essay at university. You can break it up into separate responses to each prompt, but I would recommend trying to integrate them into a cohesive statement. It shows that you've put a lot of work into it, and shows us that you've given some thought to how you want to structure the essay. Perfect. All righty. Let's move on to application tips. And I'm just going to get a helper here because he's being very noisy. So application tips, we want to make your personal statement memorable. Be specific about your background and your reasons for going abroad. So we read a lot of these applications every term. And it's wonderful. And we're really happy to have so many students applying, but it does mean that we end up reading a lot of statements. And so what you want to do is make sure that your statement stands out among a crowd of others. The way to do that is to have a specific voice within your statement. Really help us get to know you as a student. Paint the scene of what your experience has been like as a student, what you're excited about. Share some unique, interesting information, or you can even add humor if you want. There's a lot of different ways to make your statement memorable. And I highly recommend doing this because it helps us to rank your application higher if at the end of the day we've read 20 statements. But we remember that one statement where that student was so excited to go to Italy because they started cooking with their mom when they were a kid, and she loves Italian food. And so that's a really big bonding experience for them, and they can't wait to go learn how to cook in Italy. That may not be the case for you, but a little personal anecdote like that goes a long way. Beyond that, we are looking for students who have found programs that match their academic and professional needs. So show us that the program fits your goals. We really want to know that if you're choosing to go abroad at the University of Edinburgh, for example, for my program, I've done research as an English major into the different English courses offered at that university. And I know that I'm really excited to take a mystery course while I'm there because it's not offered at my home campus. I've done the research about the theater opportunities available in the city that I'm really excited to go and see. I've done research about the historical history of Edinburgh and what it means to study there. So tell us a little bit about that experience for you so that we can get to know that you've done the research about the program you intend to go on. Finally, stay away from cliches about travel and other cultures. So it's easy for all of us as students studying abroad to say we're so excited for the opportunity to travel. We're so excited to go get to know new cultures, and all of those things are super true. But they don't really make your application sound unique to say, I'm so excited to go and travel to 20 countries. On that note, it's important to emphasize time spent in your host country versus the chance to travel to other countries on the weekends. So it's really exciting if you're choosing to study in Amsterdam that you can get $20 tickets to most places in Europe, right? That's super exciting, and we're really happy to hear that. But we don't really need to hear that in your personal statement, because for us, it's really important to hear that you want to focus on the country that you have selected for your program. So I would also recommend taking this approach generally to your program. You've chosen the country that you've chosen for a reason. And if you go out abroad to other countries every single weekend and don't form those connections in country, it's not going to be the same deep experience as it would be if you were to really settle in and focus on the country that you've selected. Again, here's a statement about listing if you're part of an underrepresented group and study abroad. Let's discuss our pre and post program requirements really quickly. So if you are selected for an award, we do require that you submit a thank you letter to the donor upon acceptance of your award. This is about a 300-word statement, just kind of reiterating a little bit about yourself as a student, expressing some gratitude for the funds that you've received so that we can share this with our donors and continue receiving wonderful donations in the future from all of these generous benefactors. This is really important for us so that we can continue funding students in the future. With your thank you letter, we also require a photograph of yourself if you're comfortable sharing one. After your program, we do require a 2-page report about your time abroad. This just gives us a little bit of insight into what your experience has been like, and we will send you a prompt for that. And I will follow up with you to get those materials when you return, as well as a minimum of 3 photographs. We love photos with faces, with friends, and with landmarks. So all of those things are really fun for us to see and share with our donors as well. I mentioned earlier some additional UCEAP scholarships. So these are our named awards. These are the scholarships in our system that are funded by donors or from individual endowment funds. You'll see here that each have their own specific requirements. So for example, the Jasmine Jahan Shahi Scholarship is $2,500. And it supports students who have demonstrated academic excellence and a strong commitment to global issues. So typically we find students who are really focused on international relations or are studying global studies and are really excited to learn a language or integrate into a new culture for a particular reason. The Rose Family Scholarship, for example, is $2,500 for students studying in France. You can go through our website and see the different requirements for each of these awards. And as I mentioned, you don't apply directly to these awards. You will be selected from the general group of UCEAP Global Scholarship applicants if you are within the top 10% of students. These are some additional scholarships that we offer, and I'll leave them up on the screen for just a moment for you to see these, as well as some summer awards. So if you plan to study abroad again in the summer at any point, which by the way, you can do, you can study abroad twice on UCEAP or even 3 times if you can fit it within your academic schedule. These are some additional summer scholarships for Italy. We didn't really have anyone mention that they were interested in year-long studies. So I think what I'm going to do is just cover our extension awards really quickly. And if you are interested in year-long study, I will refer you to that year-long presentation. So let's talk about, we'll come back to combining funding. Great question, Kiara. Let's come back to that in just a moment. And let's just talk about our Dutton-Haver Extension Scholarship. So we offer $2,500 scholarships for students who are extending from fall to a year. We offer about 16 of these each year. We do preference students with financial need and limited international experience for these, and they are supported by Linda Dutton-Haver. She is a UCEAP alumna who graduated from UC Santa Barbara and studied abroad in Bordeaux, France in 1975. We love offering these awards. It's really fun for us to incentivize students to go abroad for a full year if they can, if they fall in love with their country and decide within the first month or 2 that they want to extend to a longer program. We highly encourage students to do so. And the application for this is separate. So it's a completely separate application that you'll need to fill out independent of your Global Scholarship Award. Let's discuss combining funding. So Kiara has asked, is it possible to receive multiple awards? So through our office, funding from the UCEAP Global Scholarship cannot be combined with our named awards. So like the Olivia Chenship Award or the Theta Shapiro Award or all of those that you saw on the screen beforehand. Students who are selected will receive either the Global Scholarship or the named award. We do it this way to spread out our funding as evenly as possible across the board of students because we do have limited funding and we want to make sure that every student who is, we want to give funding to all the students we possibly can. There's so many qualified and wonderful applicants who don't receive funding every year. And so at our office, we don't combine these awards. That being said, students going abroad for the year can receive the any year-long awards as well as their Global Scholarship or a named award if they're selected for those. Or if you get a Paul Dutton-Haver Extension Scholarship, that can be combined with your funding for your Global Scholarship if you're going for the year. You can also combine our system-wide scholarships with campus-based funding. If you're selected, for example, at UC Santa Cruz for an individual scholarship, and you're selected from our system-wide office, those funds can be combined, as well as external organizations. If you receive funding from some independent donor somewhere, that can also contribute to your program. We have a question here from someone in our Q&A. This is, we find these scholarships on the UCEAP website? Yes, you will. So if you go to the UCEAP website and you click on resources for students and paying for study abroad, that will take you to the application or to the page where we have information about our scholarships. And then beyond that, there will be a link to the specific application page when you click for more information. Okay. Let's skip through our year-long information just now because it seems that it's not super relevant to those in the audience, but just as a reminder that the application deadlines are March 1st and October 1st for the year-long study. So if you're going abroad in the fall, and you're planning to extend to the spring, you'll be applying in October 1st. Okay. Skip through these post-program awards. So we discussed that there were some post-program awards available. These include the Undergraduate Research Awards, which is a $1,000 stipend in each of 3 disciplinary areas the humanities, social sciences, and sciences and engineering. These are former or current UCEAP students who can apply by submitting research conducted as an undergraduate while on UCEAP. So you will apply to this either while you're abroad or once you've returned, not beforehand. So we want to see that you are demonstrating that you did research while abroad. So definitely document the research that you are doing, and you may qualify for this award. We also offer $500 internship awards. So I'm not sure if anyone in the audience is interested in conducting an internship while abroad, but if so, you can apply for a $500 stipend for students who have distinguished themselves through internships conducted on UCEAP. We also offer a graduate school scholarship. So if anyone is considering graduate school and they're interested in going to the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey, they do offer a $5,000 scholarship towards a master's program for students who are on UCEAP. Also, if anyone is interested in attending some additional workshops for information about programs generally, how UCEAP works, I've included a little QR code here to our UCEAP 101 workshop that will be hosted on March 31st. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and take a picture of the QR code so that you can register for that event down the line. I'll leave that up on the screen for just a moment. In the meantime, we are just wrapping up the presentation component of our webinar today. I've covered all of the material so far, but I'm going to stick around for Q&A as long as people have questions. So please feel free to start submitting your questions to the question and answer component on the screen there, and I'll go ahead and answer them live. And again, here is my email address if you have any follow-up questions following the presentation. If you don't have any questions, thank you so much for attending today. And I look forward to reading your applications. Be sure you submit them by March 15th, please. Recording.